Good mid-morning from Mountain Time. It's 11 o'clock in the morning. John and I were backstage here. And what's so interesting is that we communicate, I would say, several times a day, but rarely get a chance to talk. So we were just catching up just now. So, hey, John, how are you?
Doing well. A little scattered, a little restless about getting ready for ASU GSV, getting all the meetings set, all the
Yeah,
different receptions aligned. But I'm looking forward to seeing you there.
cool. Yeah, restless is an interesting word. It keeps popping up, honestly, in my life and on my aura ring.
Oh,
Um,
really? What's
my
it saying?
sleep, it's telling me that my sleep is restless right now, which has a really big effect on my sleep score, which then affects my readiness. Um, uh, so, maybe post ASU GSV, everything will just be easy, you know? Um,
I mean,
but
we've shared offline about some of my medical anxiety that I've gotten through, and I've gotten a lot of testing done, and everything's pretty much checked out from blood work to colonoscopy, which everybody should do when they're 45. I did it late.
yeah.
To all of the blood panels and just getting ahead of it. But I think I'm ready for an aura ring.
Oh, an aura ring.
Yes, I think
I have
that's
a
next. I mean, I would get obsessed by it. Like, but
That's I'm a little afraid. I'm a little afraid of that for you, because
yeah.
if I can get obsessed with it, you can definitely get obsessed with
Oh
it.
my gosh.
That being said, I do have a referral code. If anybody else wants my Aura Ring referral code, I'm happy to share that.
Oh,
Um, but it is really interesting, and when you are able to bring me back to an interesting level of, okay, I know you have been through some medical stuff that you've gotten through and you've been clear with people about. And so when my restfulness is off for 2 nights, I should probably just be happy. Um,
no. I don't mean it that way. I know what you mean there, but I have had a little couple of cancer scares and
yeah,
pretty much being dumb about SPF and everybody should wear their sunscreen and we got through that. We got through some other things and it's all good and it because it feels good to get ahead of it and to be brave and to not avoid or sweep um, challenges like that and I'm humble and just and live here to say sometimes people are like, oh, you seem like you're so put together, but how out of control I can feel with things that can feel out of control. But once you get news, once you handle it, once you get a negative diagnosis or a biopsy, in my case when I'm getting my skin checks, that feels really great. But if I take that next step and now I'm analyzing my sleep and I'm analyzing rest and I'm analyzing, man, it could really get out of control. But I might go there. I'm
I'll
ready.
send you my referral code. In just to give everybody an update, what John and I were talking about backstage was not my ability to sleep, but we were talking about the conference we're about to go to, ASUGSV, and I feel bad because I'll rattle that off to people, and I have been in the situation more recently than you probably, where people said that, and I'm like, what the heck is that person saying? So ASU GSV is a conference in San Diego. It happens every year around this time. It keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and the prices for the tickets are so expensive at this point. They've added a free show on Saturday and Sunday, and tens of thousands of people are going to that, which is fantastic. I'll fly up there and get there Saturday. I think, John, you're in Friday, give or take.
Friday night late, and then Saturday for the AI show, and Sunday, and then 7,000 people now for ASU GSV. It's gargantuan, and this year will be really interesting talking about the questions with the Trump administration and the Department of Education and what's happening in the field of education and what can thought leaders to do to manage and navigate. So it'll be really good times. It'll be great to see a lot of people.
Great. Yeah. And anybody who's listening live right now, feel free to say who you are. B, tell us about your business. Most likely it's in education. And C, if you're going to be at ASU GSV, let us know, because I have some invites to a coffee event that I'm hosting on an early Monday morning. There's a happy hour that I'm co-hosting with Starbridge and EQL, EdTech, and they're also kind of co-hosting as well, of course, the coffee event. There's a bunch of different things and events to go to, so we can pass out some invites for that. And I'll be vulnerable for a second because it's going to tie to our conversation today. I've talked about this. Conferences in the past were something that I didn't look forward to, and I would blame the conferences. And in the end, hey Pat, in the end, the it was me to blame, which is a similar conversation I have with a lot of people. I don't know if you've had this one, John, with people in the education space who are founders. When I talk to them about lead gen, and we talk about some of the challenges they have. One of them they say is, "Oh, I hired a salesperson. That salesperson sucked. They did this and they did that." And I'm like, "Well, let me ask you a question. How can you say they sucked when you couldn't figure out how to do the sales?" And, I'm kind of relating that to my experiences with conferences where I used to say, "Oh, that conference was the worst." Well, actually, even a teeny tiny conference with the right preparation, with having the right credibility, because we're going to talk about LinkedIn, with reaching out to the right people and not everybody. And I'm sure you're getting the same messages that I'm getting from everybody who's going to be there. When you do conferences right, when your credibility is there, when your confidence was there, when your clarity in yourself is there and who you're there to help and meet and serve and learn from, conferences become more effective and they become wonderful experiences, not necessarily the ones that I had at a few other conferences. John, have you ever experienced that where a conference didn't feel right and you walked away kind of with your head down?
Yeah, and it depends on the dynamic of the conference itself. I've had situations where I've spoken and been a speaker at a conference where I didn't prepare as well as I probably should have, and I walked away saying, "Hey, probably would have said something different and didn't give my best performance." I've also gone to conferences where I kind of walked away, and we talked a little bit about this, Josh, where I had too much work to get done during the conference, which kept me from doing the work inside the conference. So we have a little bit of that dynamic. And then we talked on the last show about some rules that I've set for myself to the most of the conference, which are doing a little bit of research and studying what the breakouts and the panel discussions and the speaking engagements will be, and commit yourself to going there and talking to the speakers after, handing out a card, connecting on LinkedIn, and then saying every day, a few connections in the halls of sitting down, catching up, learning about someone, I think can really go a long way. So being intentional about what you're trying to do there, I think is critically important. One more thing that I didn't share last time that I thought of afterward that I want to share this time, and that is a lot of the industry luminaries. I'm a big fan of Alex and Ben from EdTech Insiders. They, in their newsletter, will say, here are the top 5 workshops that we're attending, and you can piggyback off that. Or here are the top 5 happy hours that we're going to attend that are open. See you there. So really think about the newsletters that you're attached with. Matt Tower and Etch and the Ed Sheet. Claire Zhao from ASU GSV and the AI report. We really lean on a lot of these seminal reports to gain insights, learn information, see what people are saying in terms of the latest and greatest developments in our space. Take it from there. We just put out a Catalyst at Penn GSE note to our audience saying, hope to see you there, and hope we can sit down. And if we can't, let's sit down after when the dust settles and we can spend a little bit of time together.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm really focused on this idea of essentially when the dust settles, because there's only so much you can do, and you have to give yourself the grace, that there's only 24 hours in a day and you do have to sleep while you're there. And so there's lots of opportunities after. We're here in this show to talk about something that I've been working through with my team, is this idea that we have to dispel the rumor. the thought process that LinkedIn is a place where you go from connection to contract. And for some reason, man, between me and you, the words that start with the letter C seem to be coming back into our lives. So the workflow that I have come up with and have begun to teach in the Ed Sales Elevation Experience is this idea of LinkedIn and its 6 C's: clarity, content, credibility, consistency, conversation, conversion. Clarity on your ideal client. You don't need to talk to everybody. You need to talk to the perfect client. And I've been leaning in this week a lot on this idea of the perfect client because I believe in education it exists. Content that speaks directly to the problem you can solve. Credibility, built through social proof, through case studies, through other people commenting on what you do. Consistency, trust compounds, and you have to be consistent. John and I are very clear with each other when we talk. We had a conversation yesterday about, and you can feel free to be very honest with folks, John, about kind of my consistency and level that I post. Conversation, listen more than you speak. Just start by joining conversations. I think of LinkedIn as a conference, and these conversations are happening. And so just go and observe the conversations happening in LinkedIn. Finally, conversion. When you've done those other 5, you are closer to potentially converting somebody into an actual phone call that could potentially lead to that contract that you're looking for. So those are the 6 C's. I look forward in this moment to your reaction. I was trying to think of a C. Your reaction to my 6 C's.
Well, I'll confirm that those 6 C's speak to me.
Congratulations on that one.
I'll use an anecdote.
Okay.
Because we did talk a little bit about this. I want to just say that I've been in this space, as I've shared, for over 25 years. And for a long time, when LinkedIn was first getting to be the platform, the voice that it is, the movement that it is, there weren't a lot of people in the K-12 space, thought leaders, education leaders. There was a lot of EdTech founders, and there was a lot of business people conversing and communicating and connecting on LinkedIn. And I'm a product of, but I wasn't seeing early on when I was really deep as an EdTech co-founder and a person, seeing superintendents and key clients and prospects positioning themselves like they are now. So I always come at this through the lens of great for EdTech founders, not sure about the extended ecosystem. And I tell you, Josh, you've created a real believer in me to say, no, that's not true. They are there. And I'll give an anecdote. So last week, conferences, and I talked about institutes. And sometimes I forget that we go live, and sometimes I forget that these are, and 2 of the pioneers in the institute space, Doug Roberts and Jen Ferrari, both commented on the conversation that we had. Isn't that interesting that people can learn that if you're sharing authentically and you're providing good insights and guidance, that can be recognized? I'm not sure if you were going to bring that up, but that was a real special moment, an authentic moment, a real moment that wasn't canned or wasn't planned. It just happened. And I was really, really excited to see that. You could provide the context and background on that. But that was really cool.
It's interesting because it literally just passed through my mind probably 2 minutes ago as you were beginning to talk about the EdTech Insiders and a couple other places. I was like, go, John, rattle these people, rattle them off. Are they listening? Mm-hmm. Because Doug Roberts did reshare the this event that we're having right now, but when we mentioned him, Jen Ferrari mentioned it, like, John, I think people are listening.
Yeah.
How cool is that? So no, it was really an honor that they did. And you know, why we are doing this, to be completely transparent with people, is certainly to give value. But I want people to know that, like, when we go live, I don't necessarily think that people schedule this into their week. But if you're on LinkedIn, you're scrolling through and you pick up a minute and you learn something, or hopefully you get a laugh, that's great. That's really what this is for. And that then leads back to this idea of credibility, because we are here talking about the things that are valuable to others, and sometimes less valuable when we move into football or your wonderful hair or things like that. But otherwise we stay in our lane. So I did see that Jen mentioned it. I did see that Doug mentioned it, and that was absolutely heartwarming.
Hmm. Absolutely. And I'll just say to Mike's comment, I've become a big believer in LinkedIn. With my work and my other podcasts and entrepreneur breakthroughs, I always start with LinkedIn and end with
Mhm.
Facebook. So I do believe that it's an important forum, it's an important platform, and I think that people are going there to read and gain insights, gain guidance, and I think
Yeah.
that your coach, Josh, in terms of showing and coaching people on how to make the most of that forum.
Yeah, cool. So Pat, welcome. Shelly, I cannot wait for you and John to meet at some point. I can only, and I've never been to an industry event with Shelly, but I bet she's got people following her around. She has got so much love and energy. And John, she did obviously set the bar very high for all of us as a judge for Milken. And Mike, to your point, there's a last count number I saw was about 135,000 schools, K to 12, on LinkedIn. And if we can reframe this whole conversation a little bit, LinkedIn is also just if you think of LinkedIn as a gym, LinkedIn is also just a place to get comfortable with your messaging, comfortable with your own confidence, comfortable with commenting, which leads back to, obviously your confidence. And you can test messaging. If obviously if you write something and people engage with it, then you know that people are interested in what you have to say, and clearly you're a thought leader to them. So, LinkedIn is a great place to play. John, when you were back in your consultant days, I like to think of LinkedIn as a sandbox. Um, and so if you only go to LinkedIn to 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 connect with people and then try and get them to a contract, nah, I don't see that happening. Um, but when you think of it as a place where you can test that messaging, and to John's point, and he's got a few gray hairs, so he's been at LinkedIn for a while. That it has morphed. It has morphed and has become a place that you can uh, spread your wings, especially when it comes to K-12.
Yeah, and even in this period of time that I've been a co-host and partner with you on this forum, Josh, my thinking has evolved. I used to
Yeah.
share with you saying, I don't, I think it's all about partnerships and relationships versus social media exposure. And I've come back. I've heard you speak. I've seen the influence that you've had in your coaching of other EdTech entrepreneurs in some of the institutes that we've discussed,
Right.
and and seen that impact, and seen that it's doing well in those forums, that 1+1 = 5. So you can't overdo relationships or overdo LinkedIn, but if you do both well, the synergies appear, and you might get a comment from an industry leader who says, hey, I really appreciated your insights and the recognition that you provided. So I'm a big believer, and I've kind of changed in this area.
And you and I think one of the cool things, um, we can we're never really on opposite sides, but we certainly listen to each other about our thoughts and our feelings. And so let's continue down that path a little bit and continue to have our ongoing conversation and the word overdue. Talk about, I'm happy if for us to have this conversation. Talk about how you feel when it comes to my posting on LinkedIn. You feel like it's too much? Talk about it.
Yeah, I think that X and Twitter created a paradigm for pithy and synthesized insights. So I always get concerned that if you say it with too much content, that it loses its bite. So whatever you do as you're posting, to keep it in short form, say what you have to say in a couple of sentences. I'm always thinking when I'm posting on Entrepreneur Breakthroughs or an update of the Milken competition, can I keep it above the proverbial fold? Can I keep it in the little window and not have people have to click read more? And if they do, is it 1, 2, maybe 3 lines before I get to a call to action? But if I get into multiple paragraphs, I don't know, maybe it's just the insecurity that I have that I don't think people want to read that much about what I'm saying, and hoping that they don't get to the first paragraph and then click out when the third paragraph was so important. Just my 2 cents.
Totally. And whoever, Pat, Shelley, Mike, feel free to weigh in here. I'll tell you, I feel like pendulums shift when it comes to stuff like this. For example, when we used to build lists, right? We would just give me as long a list as you can, and I do not care who I email, and we'll see what happens. Now, let's get the smallest list we can with the best people on it. Newsletters used to be super, 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 super long back in the, Constant Contact days of the early 2000s. Then they got to small, I think, and we all moved to kind of MailChimp. I feel like we are shifting back more to longer form content. And one of the reasons I write longer form is because I always envision the person who is at a stoplight, hopefully, paying attention to others around them, but is just looking at a post and zipping up and down. And so they're catching the first paragraph and the third paragraph and the fifth paragraph. And hopefully it's all really relevant and stuff for them. So that's why I tend to do more longer form content. But you and I have this ongoing discussion, and the fact of the matter is there is no right or wrong answer about that. There is a right or wrong answer when you treat LinkedIn like just a billboard. When people just treat LinkedIn and their LinkedIn profile as a chance to push product. That, I think you and I can agree 100% is an absolute turnoff and a no-no, especially in the education space.
Yeah, it makes me think, though, Josh, we have some evolved thinking here. I'm the first to say humbly that my thinking has shifted a little bit on the power of LinkedIn and how to make the most of LinkedIn. One thing that I would recommend to you, if you wouldn't mind sharing maybe on a future episode or share out when this comes up, is, are there any, I come from a research university, what does the research say? The power of a like, the power of a comment, the ideal short form, long form. I remember when we were dealing in the world of MOOCs, massively open online courses, that if you had a video that was longer than 3 or 4 minutes, it lost its impact because people wouldn't listen because of the shorter attention spans. So whatever I think or you think, and however that's evolved, I think matters, but I'd love to see what the research states in terms of the ultimate impact of a like, a comment, long form, short form, and what has the most impact. I happen to know, and I've had a lot of people comment that they look forward to my updated Entrepreneur Breakthroughs post with my social media cards because we're on episode 40 and people look forward to what is the next episode going to be. They come in, they see that the registration is free, and that becomes sort of an intentional and a methodical and a regularized, if that's a word, approach to how I post on LinkedIn. And I try to keep it 3 or 4 sentences with a clear call to action. I don't know. I would love to see if LinkedIn has published the impact of people who are regularly sharing, regularly commenting, regularly liking, and what the power of all that is as it relates to doing more business.
Totally. We can get those numbers. Since we have essentially gone, and I know, this isn't you, we've kind of gone to Plugtown here of when it comes to entrepreneur breakthroughs. Why don't we stay in Plugtown and tell everybody about Catapult?
Definitely. So Catapult connects entrepreneurs to learning resources, strategic advisors, classroom practitioners, and academic researchers, all within an entrepreneurial community of practice. We have over 1,000 general members on Catapult, getting access to 14,000 learning resources, tagged learning resources in the area of team building, product development, market insights, and fundraising. And now we recently launched our advanced member program, which gives you hands-on support from strategic advisors in the lanes of leadership, product, market, and fundraising. That costs $399. It's a one-time fee. You get an assessment, and then you get unlimited access to those resources that I named.
Cha-ching. That was a good one. I will
Thank
switch
you.
us over here, and we'll stay in Plugtown. And I'll talk real quickly about the Ed Sales Elevation Experience. This is the community we have. We now have, I would say, hundreds of entrepreneurs in the education space who are there on a daily basis. I am going to need to figure out how to turn off my notifications for our LinkedIn groups. John, we've got this new group, Ed Sales Elevation Experience 9, which is the unofficial number because, I work with companies individually and I don't necessarily count them. But cohort number 9, 10 companies, all in education. And I truly can't keep up with the conversation they're having in our little group when we're talking about headline, when we're talking about clarity on who we work with. And then we've got our bigger group of alumni from the Ed Sales Elevation Experience. And so we also have this public group. So you have a QR code there that people can join. The Ed Sales Elevation Experience is getting better each time. I'm not going to say it's getting bigger because it's not going to get bigger right now. 10 companies in education, 3 people per is the right size. It's getting better because I believe that I'm getting better as a coach. We're always working on the course workload and we're seeing results faster for our companies. After week 1, I got 3 separate messages from folks who had joined and just saying, thank you so much. I'm already putting into place some of what we learned. I can feel my confidence. I can feel my clarity. So that's the Ed Sales Elevation Experience.
I'll say 2 things too there, Josh. One, the word that came up was organic. The fact that people are organically communicating, conversing, and going back and forth is great. The other thing, we talked about some of the work that we do together in parallel, in conjunction. Really, really interesting when I'm providing some of my mentoring through my entrepreneur in residence hours. And I don't know that they're connected necessarily in, and they say, well, I'm really working hard on my signature solution. Or they use terms that you've ingrained and embedded and really pushed. I'm like, oh, that's a 3E client, or that's a Josh, a person who's really working it. So kudos there.
Thank you. And one of my new favorite things that I have begun to do with people, just to have a little bit of fun, me, I'm always so serious. They'll come to me. For example, I met, I'm not going to use his last name, but Ivan came through you, and I had a wonderful conversation with Ivan and another person, and they said, I come to you through John Gamba, and I'm like, I look down, I'm like, I don't know who that is. And they're like, John Gamba. Fun. You must. I'm like, never heard of him. At least I find it funny.
Yeah, I find that very funny.
I'm glad. Let's get back to LinkedIn for a few more minutes. It's interesting that you say you become a believer, or you kind of have begun to understand at least where I'm coming from. Catherine from Go Pursue, who I believe is going to be out in San Diego, was a non-believer in LinkedIn and the power of it, and she is now a big believer in it. We've got a great show from Breaking the Grade with her talking about her success. The truth about LinkedIn. Start with the first rumor, myth, and we can't go into all of them. LinkedIn is a social media platform. Okay, maybe. I don't, if you want to throw it into that classification bucket, fine. I truly believe that LinkedIn is one of the last places on earth that people can go, have great conversations, support each other, maybe disagree, but you're listening and you're learning. And so it's hard for me to believe that LinkedIn is a social media platform because I feel like all the other ones, that's where those things occur. But in this one, people are really there to support each other, help each other, learn from each other, and of course, network and see if they can help each other. Do you agree with that LinkedIn is not a quote unquote social media platform?
Yeah, I distinguish between social media and networking, for sure, business networking. Whereas I think of Facebook as being more of a social media platform and LinkedIn being professional networking platform. One is to really connect and share emotions and insights about family and friends, and another is really to get into making connections, meaningful connections, and networking professionally with people that you want to network with that will lead to success in your business affairs. I always find it funny when I see, Jim Smith's birthday's today on LinkedIn. I mean, I don't know if that's important, but
I've never wished anybody happy birthday on LinkedIn, although once a year on June 23rd, by the way, I do get messages from people who, and then you look and it's the year before was the last time that we connected or we heard from each other. I've got a quote from somebody here that says, you don't need everyone to see you. You just need the right people to notice and trust you. That quote is from the great Josh Chernikoff. And I really believe that in the sense of, again, how things shift. You used to just want to get LinkedIn connections, like email addresses, eat them up, gobble them up like Pac-Man. And we don't need that. We really don't. We just need the right people to notice and to trust you. And that is what LinkedIn is for when I speak about it. I believe it's that for you when you speak. Granted, you do speak less, and you and I are a little bit on opposite sides on this. I kind of speak more, so maybe some of my stuff gets missed. Where when you speak, it's I think people really notice it. So there's opposite ends there.
Can you read that first quote again?
I'll read that again. I'll read it at any time. You don't need everyone to see you. You just need the right people to notice and to trust you.
Yeah, I mean, I go back to the anecdote of two very important people in this industry, of Doug and Jen. They got it. They really heard and shared the difference between a conference and an institute, and appreciated that we were distinguishing those two paradigms in an effort to help and support and serve the people that we help support and serve. There was nothing about sales there. There was nothing about trying to build a business relationship with anyone. It just was an authentic, organic conversation that we were having that translated into a confirmation from them that we nailed it. And if people wanted to reach out and inquire and learn more about what IEI and what ERDI is and the difference between the two and what people can get out being part of both of those institutes and ecosystems. Great. I think that's the personification of that quote.
You're right. And John, if anything, the to emphasize and show how authentic and organic that was, you were kind of pointing out, not that you and I really mind these things, but you were kind of pointing out a blind spot in the whole show that I had prepared, that we had talked about, because you kind of said, hey, if we get some time, we need to talk institutes. And you were right, and bringing that up, and super appreciative, because then Doug, who's got a wonderful heart and network, Jen, wonderful heart and network, we're able to kind of put this out there. Speaking of wonderful hearts, Bobby Donahue. I'm pretty sure, John, Bobby will join us I'm hoping, at the event June 5th and 6th, the Catalyst event down in Philadelphia. Bobby is as New York as they come.
Albany or New York City?
Take a guess.
Rochester.
Yeah. I don't know any other places in New York other than the city. And I hate calling it the city. One of my other favorite things to do is when people say, I live in the city. I'm like, which city is that?
Yeah, exactly. That. I mean,
but Bobby is
not
New
everybody
York,
can live in Philly, man. Shoot.
No, thank God.
About the city.
Hopefully he'll join us.
Hey, Bobby.
This man has been taking, he's in cohort number 8. And I'll tell you what, when we get to the signature solution, Bobby's been drinking the credibility Kool-Aid and gallons of it. There we go. Forget about it. When we got to the signature solution, and he's digging in super hard on it, he decided he's got a platform called Planet Bonehead, where he tries to teach kids about climate change, and he came to the course to sell to schools, and then decided that he was going to go more of a CSR route, reaching out to companies who would value Planet Bonehead, companies in the green space, and then he would get to schools that way. And so he totally reversed course. He was doing his signature solution. It wasn't working for him, and he decided to change. Yeah, check out Planet Bonehead. This guy is a rock star.
And isn't it awesome that immediately when you say that, I have 2 or 3 people from my world who are working in that area, including some of your clients and our common people, who he should connect with. My friend Josh, who's got an entire UN Sustainable Development Goals movement, could really help him in his quest to, I think you said, teach the principles of climate change and climate consciousness to young people. I already have ideas and can't wait to share that with you.
You got to go watch this guy. So Bobby,
as long as he's Yankees, not Mets, Jets, not Giants. If that's not the case, then we might have some problem.
In that case, Bobby, you got to forget about it yourself. So listen, I gotta go.
Go Birds, go Saquon.
I gotta go eat some lunch here, and I got a couple coaching sessions coming up this afternoon, and then tomorrow's Friday. Got to pack, and then I make the long journey to León, Mexico, and fly León to Tijuana. Tijuana, I walk across the border. It's more glamorous than it sounds. I'm in San Diego, take a 20-minute Uber up there. John, one day, I know you love a good adventure. One day you should just fly here so that we can fly up, to the border and walk across, because it's really fun to do.
Let's do it.
And then I'll see you up in San Diego. Appreciate everybody joining. Bobby, Mike, Shelly. Can't wait for you to meet Shelly. Shelly, you should definitely come to Philly in June if you can. She's always on the run in great places. Pat, nice to meet you. John, you want the last word?
Bobby, check out Josh Dorfman from the University of Pennsylvania. He's the lazy environmentalist. Really, really good guy, doing some great work. Has a lot of white papers, a lot of policy in the area of climate change and environmentalism. and a friend. So if there's anything there, any contacts, any networking, keep us posted. And I'll see you hopefully in San Diego.
See me, hopefully.
No, Bobby.
No, I'm not sure if Bobby's making San Diego, but you'll see him in Philly.
Oh, okay.
And I'll see you Saturday.
See me Saturday.
And then I'll see you in June. And then I'll see you in July. And then, there's some life changes coming, so I'll get to see you much more.
All right. That sounds good. And anytime anybody wants to connect, do it via LinkedIn through my Calendly / John Gamba. And let's keep this conversation going. These are really great.
Forget about it. Good talk, guys. Everybody have a great afternoon.